Good morning. I'm Andrew Whaley. Every fall, usually around this time of year, I have a request from a high school senior to write a letter of recommendation for scholarships or for applications to college. I'm grateful that it's always been somebody that I know pretty well through their church involvement, and often they've been in our home and have kept our kids from time to time during their high school years, and so I oblige. But I always have a struggle with these letters because you're supposed to lift up the leadership qualities and academic achievements of this person, but I know that everybody who's applying for this scholarship or for this program has those. So I, of course, list those that I know about or ones that they've fed me to be sure I include. But then I try to talk about something else, something that might help this individual stand out among the rest. And since I'm their pastor, I try to talk about their character, their kindness, their humility, their generosity. I try to cite specific places where I've seen it alive. And if, depending on who I'm writing the letter for, I might even mention that I see it as the work of God in them. I don't really know, you don't get information if those letters have ever made a difference in someone receiving a scholarship. I don't know if people care. The culture we live in wants those high achievements, those test scores, those top honors, those student body president and captain of the varsity squad achievements. There's not many requests for tell us how gentle or kind or generous this person is. We want to reward that with a scholarship. So I don't know if these letters are helpful or if I just sound like some mushy loser. We don't live in a culture that values formation of people in faith, especially within what we call congregation. It's in congregation, though, that we discover unconditional love, acceptance, the grace of God, that we find encouragement and hope and purpose. But it's also in congregation that we find bitterness, pettiness, cynicism, anger, unmet needs, apathy. It's a weird thing. You don't pay any dues as part of a congregation. You don't take a class that changes your physical appearance, like a class at the gym or a weight loss program. You don't learn some practical skill that you can show off to others because of your regular participation in congregation. We come together and we sing these weird songs about a God we cannot see, or about a God that could be seen for a while on this earth but was killed and buried and walked out of a cave 3 days later, and we talk about how that has somehow changed the world and us. We read these old stories that are filled with violence and patriarchy and slavery, but we declare they also hold timeless truths that were just as applicable now as they were thousands of years ago. We act like passing a tray of pita bread and Welch's grape juice is somehow special, and people tear up and cry when we put droplets of water on a baby's head. It's weird. It doesn't make sense. What's the practical end? Where's the data to show that there's real transformation in this process? And the weirdest thing of all is that we say God has chosen to reveal God's very presence and purpose in the world through this mixed and messed up community we call congregation. I'm here today in our history nook. It's off the elevator on the second floor. It's a testimony to this congregation through the ages, but it's hardly a Smithsonian museum. We're not known throughout the world as a church that has a major broadcasting ministry or has grown by thousands of people or who has been led by some kind of influencer pastor who's followed by people around the world. We're just this gathered body at 1837 Grandin Road. But the Apostle Paul, who cared a lot about congregation, he says that a congregation like us, a nothing special congregation, is God's letter of recommendation to the world. This is what he says in 2 Corinthians 3, 1-3. Are we beginning to commend ourselves again? Surely we do not need, as some do, letters of recommendation to you or from you, do we? You yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts to be known and read by all. And you show that you are a letter of Christ, prepared by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. We are God's letter of recommendation. You want to know God? Look at us. Now, frankly, my answer to that is, well, that's not a very strong letter. Not many accolades there. And yet, I remember reading that when Dr. Robertson, the founding pastor of our church, retired, he wrote in his farewell address to the congregation, "Open my heart, and you will find graved inside the Raleigh Court Presbyterian Church." He saw this congregation, this care of congregation, as a letter of recommendation for Jesus to the world. I do too. I really believe in this power of congregation. I know there's not the data, the evidence, the security and certainty. But I've seen this power of transformation. I've seen it happen in the daily relationships, the acts of love and care at the critical moments of people's lives, the service to the poor, even though poverty is never relieved entirely, the love of neighbor, of stranger, of people following in God's way to live lives of integrity with a vision to live toward. I know it doesn't lead to systemic change, massive growth, or worldwide power. But God's letter of recommendation was never intended to assuage those who write the scholarship offers. It was written to show a still more excellent way that manifests these fruits of the Spirit, that cares and loves deeply, that mixes praise with prophecy. So may we together continue to be congregation and continue adding paragraphs to God's letter of recommendation.